What's up, everybody? Welcome to Moxie Bets, presented by Caesar Sportsbook. Today, we're recapping Wild Card Weekend action, Super Wild Card Weekend action, and previewing tonight's games. We have two because the Bills game was postponed. And to join us today, we had to get the biggest Eagles fan on the planet, Sean T. Green from the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Sean, big day for you. The Cowboys lose in spectacular fashion in the first round of the playoffs, and you got your Eagles playing tonight. How are we feeling?
Yeah, I mean, it felt like Christmas morning all over again, getting to unwrap that that Cowboys loss. I was a huge Packers fan yesterday, not only gambling wise, but it just was so awesome. And in a weird way, it takes the pressure off the Eagles a little bit, honestly.
Yeah.
Hey, if we're not going to win the Super Bowl, at least the Cowboys aren't going to win the Super Bowl. That's my biggest fear. But yeah, massive game. Very excited. Complete collapse the last part of the regular season. I know it doesn't look good, but this is this is the time to turn it around. 0-0. We're going up against the Bucs. This is when we can turn it around.
Okay, well, we will get into that game. We'll also get into the Cowboys, but let's start with this Lions beating the Rams 24-21. The Lions' first playoff win since 1991. It's been 32 years. Interestingly enough, you know how much I hate Stafford and the Rams. Yes. I was on the Rams in this one. They were like the opposite of the Eagles. They were peaking at the right time. It looked like the scariest team that you could see in the playoffs, that this team could actually make a run. And the Lions secondary was just so leaky, and they let everybody score on them. And then yesterday, I mean, let's be honest, it was a close game. I took Rams money line, so I lost on this one. Had I took them on the spread, we would have cashed. I'm not mad about losing this bet, though, because to see the Detroit Lions fans crying and happy, I mean, as an Eagles fans, you kind of know what's that's like, right? It'd been a long time until you guys won your first Super Bowl. So what did you think of this game?
Yes. The 2017 Super Bowl, I know what it's like. I mean, Detroit is a great football city, great sports city. I did take the Rams and the points. I thought it was going to be a close game, and it came down to the Lions defense really showed up in the red zone, held them to 3 field goals. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, guys were, this really did feel like their Super Bowl. Like there were grown men crying in the stands. Yeah. Mike Tirico had to explain, hey, you don't get the Super Bowl ring now. There's still a few more games. So it'll be interesting to see who they play next week because I mean, how is it not a little bit of a letdown? But yeah, I mean, even as a Rams backer with the points, money line, you had to feel pretty good on that last drive when, Goff totally missed on third down. They're putting the ball down. You got Stafford in that dome. They just came up a little short there.
What do you think of the questionable call for Puka?
Yeah, I mean, that was holding, but again, I don't know. It's playoff football. I'm down to let it go. I felt like they missed a couple things. Like there was that false start they called on the Lions that wasn't there. I don't know. I mean, yeah, it probably was holding, but how many holding? I'd rather them put away the whistle in the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree. So next matchup is the winner of the Eagles and Bucs game. If the Eagles get out of this game, are you afraid of Detroit?
Well, Katie, I like to take it one game at a time. I don't want to look ahead. I don't want to give the Bucs bulletin board material. Oh, Sean Green's already talking about the Lions. They haven't even beaten us yet. Yeah, I mean, this Lions team, they certainly are, emotionally super physical team, I would say. And then their receivers are a handful. So, it would certainly be tough to go in there and get a win. But, knock on wood that we get there.
Okay, exactly. All right. Well, now the favorite game to talk about. The Packers absolutely stunned the Cowboys 48-32. Dak Prescott put on some Hall of Fame level garbage time stats here, right? 41 of 60. The guy threw 60 times, 403 pass yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. I mean, first of all, I took the Cowboys over their team total, which was 29.5. Now, we cashed. I didn't think we were going to cash at the start of that game, but the Packers pulled their starters so early on. I mean, this was absolutely demoralizing. One, I know that you're happy. Crying Dallas fans are one of your favorite pastimes to search for on the internet and see when you're in Vegas. That's still one of my all-time favorite photos of you. But whose fault is this? Is it McCarthy? Is it Dak? Are the Cowboys cursed? Like, what's going on?
Well, yes. I mean, my voodoo curse is paying dividends, right? I got the Mike McCarthy little doll that I'm putting the needles in. Yeah, it has to start with McCarthy. I mean, everyone on that team played like crap. They came out completely flat. That is the head coach's fault. Then I think you have to go to the defensive coordinator, Dan Quinn. Just had no answers for Jordan Love, a guy making his first start in the
Yeah.
playoffs. You got to figure something out. And then Dak certainly deserves a ton of blame. I do think Mike McCarthy gets fired. I think they'll stick it out with
Yeah.
Dak just because your options otherwise are slim to none. So yeah, it's poor Cowboys fans. It's gonna be another tough one. But yeah, now Dak 2-5 in the playoffs.
I mean, it's bad. Another person who's not good in the playoffs is Lamar Jackson. So I'm curious to see how this Baltimore Ravens team looks, even though they've been dominant all season long. On the other side of, well, actually, one thing about the Cowboys, I've been seeing on the internet, everybody saying Bill Belichick to the Cowboys. But as long as I've been alive, Jerry Jones likes a puppet for a head coach. He likes someone that he can control. He's very involved. I can't imagine that Jerry and Bill Belichick could get along and that would work out. So I think it's insane that Bill Belichick would go to the Cowboys. But what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, I saw some places had him as the betting favorite, and you're right. I don't think you can pull the hoodie strings, right? Like
No.
he's kind of his own deal, and I would be shocked if he goes where there's a very strong controlling owner because he doesn't want to put up with that. He's Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I would be surprised. I think Vrabel to the Cowboys makes a ton of
Yeah.
sense, but
Yeah.
who knows? I think for Belichick, if I was him, I would go to the Chargers, but yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, Chargers interviewing Jim Harbaugh, so he's making the NFL circuit right now. So the other side of the ball, Jordan Love, how impressive was he yesterday? Now, I know that there's been some kind of leakiness with the Cowboys defense, but stat-wise, I mean, this is one of the best defenses in the league. He has the perfect passer rating in a playoff debut. It's the first time in NFL history. Now it's starting to look like the Packers made all the right decisions by drafting him and pissing off Aaron Rodgers because look where they now, first of all, they're going against the 49ers next week. They're 9.5-point dogs. I think they get rolled. Obviously, the 49ers have a good history with the Packers in the playoffs, but you got to tip your hat to the Packers, right?
Yeah, I mean, he got great run support. Aaron Jones just ran so
Oh,
hard, was running over
beast.
everyone, which is huge. But Jordan Love made some high level throws, and
Yeah.
you couldn't help but see a little Aaron Rodgers when he's doing like the little back, where he's backing up and kind of getting those little side army things. And yeah, Packers were right. Let Aaron Rodgers pursue his Pat McAfee career, whatever else he's got going on in New York, stirring it up with late night show hosts. But
God.
yeah, it really has worked out great. I mean, he had the middle of the season was pretty bad for Jordan Love, but he
Yes.
started good and then he finished good, and that was an all time again guy making his first playoff start, just dominated.
Yeah, and the Packers had 0 Pro Bowlers and the Cowboys had 7. I believe the Niners have the most at 9. So we'll see how that shakes out. Now, this total is already at 50.5. What are your thoughts on this total for next week with the Niners and the Packers? Early lean.
Yeah, I would say, that's interesting because I do
High.
think, well, certainly, yeah, certainly the 49ers can move the ball, but they play really good defense. And I don't know, this Packers defense, I can't really make sense of it. It was so bad at times, but then again, their defense finished strong.
Yeah.
But I'm with you. I would say I would lean under there. It feels like maybe the
Yeah.
total should be like 49. 50 and a half
Yeah.
does feel high.
We'll see how that trickles out later in the week. The Chiefs beat the Dolphins in a surprise that comes to I think almost nobody, 26-7. This was the coldest game in NFL history. You saw those videos of the exploding frozen beer cans or that one with the water bottle when they take it out of the
So yeah,
fridge
the
and then you
water
just
button.
see the whole thing freeze over. It looked cold. It looked miserable. But I always said the devil that you do know is better than the devil that you don't know. And you just know that Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs can figure something out. And this Dolphins team have been frauds for years now. They start out really flashy and really fast. And then you get some tape on them. And towards the second half of the season, everything goes down because you realize that you could just stop them, which is basically what's happened. But what do you think is next for Miami? Do you think that McDaniels is on the hot seat at all? Do you think Tua is on the hot seat at all? What happens there?
Yeah, I think they're kind of just stuck running it back, right? I mean,
Yeah.
they their regular season record was good enough. It hasn't been so many playoff. I mean, that was Tua's also his first playoff game. So as much as I'm not a Tua fan, I think it's probably too early to reset and blow things up. But yeah, I mean, you nailed it. Like they struggle on the road. They struggle once there's some tape on them. The only thing that scared me was that everyone was saying, "Oh, you got to take the Chiefs, the Dolphins in
Yeah.
cold weather, the Dolphins in cold weather," and my brain's like,
And
"Ah,
then,
it's a trap, it's a trap." But then I couldn't get out of the trap, so I just said, "Screw it,
yeah.
give me the Chiefs, laying the points." But yeah, it was exactly how everyone said, which is always scary.
A lot of talk about the receivers in Kansas City. A lot of drops on the ball. Kadarius Toney, and a lot, and even Travis Kelce dropped the ball, I believe, 4 times this weekend, which is unlikely for him. But how about Rashee Rice? 130
Ooh.
receiving yards, 1 touchdown. Has he really emerged to be their wide receiver one?
Yeah, we did a fantasy playoff contest on Sports Gambling Podcast, and I was like, Rashi Rice is my guy. I said he's their number one pass catcher in Kansas City. I'm not
Yeah.
a guy who blames Kelsey's drops on Taylor Swift. I'm not that
Thank
guy.
you.
But
Thank you.
but he just sucks because he's getting old, and
Yeah.
I blame his podcast.
Right.
Rashi Rice has just been awesome, and I think if the Chiefs are going to go on a run, it's because of the connection with Rashi Rice. Like the dude is always open, great yards
Yeah.
after the catch. I think the Chiefs really found a diamond here in the draft, and
Yeah.
just feed this kid the rock.
Well, and the thing is, and the reason why the Chiefs are still a threat, I think, well, Pacheco obviously had a hell of a game and he's had a good kind of second half of the season. They figured out how to run the ball as long as Pacheco is healthy. You got a quarterback that's turned it over a few times this year, but likely doesn't turn the ball over. And then that defense is so surprising to see how good this Kansas City defense has been. All right. And one that I found to be really exciting are the Texans beating the Browns 45-14. CJ Stroud, 3 touchdowns. He just led a completely dominant upset over Joe Flacco. I know you were in on the Joe Flacco hype. It was
Yes.
fun train for a few games. It was like me with
Yeah, it
Tommy
was.
DeVito. I was very in on that in a few games. And then all of a sudden you see him throw the back-to-back pick sixes, and you're like, oh, yeah, there he is, right?
Right. Yeah. There's a reason, when you're betting your money and you're like, Joe Flacco is a road favorite in the playoffs. What could go wrong? And then you saw it. I'm like, oh, man, the Flacco
Yeah,
narrative was so fun. Who doesn't
it
love
was.
the old guy coming back? He's not Deshaun Watson. He's so easy to root for. And then, yeah, CJ Stroud just balled out. I mean, hats off. It could have been worse. Like he just barely missed Nico
Yeah.
Collins wide open
Oh, yeah.
deep. It could have been a bigger blowout. And I was, especially in this game, I was leaning into the narrative of like, hey, first time coach, first time quarterback.
Yes.
They're
Yes.
both rookies and they're making their first home start. That's usually a time where you want to fade them, but he threw it in my face. Flacco threw it in my face. But yeah, I mean, even losing money on that game, I was still like, man, Stroud, this is at least fun to
Yeah.
watch. If I'm going to lose
Yeah.
money, I at least want some big time plays, and he came through.
I agree with you. That's how I felt about losing my Rams bet. I was like, you know what? If I'm going to lose money, this is kind of a good
Yeah.
story. I at least was on that. Well, because CJ Stroud to me, there's nothing about him that is like a rookie. He's not scared of anything.
No.
He goes out, he makes a lot of big boy throws. I mean, there were some throws in that game where I was like, holy shit, this kid's a rookie. It's unbelievable. Kind of reminds me of Brock Purdy slightly, a little bit. I mean, obviously, CJ Stroud has a little bit stronger of an arm there. No rookie quarterback has ever started in the Super Bowl. Do you think that CJ Stroud could be the first?
I mean, you're going to sound silly doubting CJ Stroud right
Yeah.
now, right? But they I
Yeah.
mean, they have to go
It's
on the
hard.
road for the rest
Yeah.
of the unless the Steelers somehow do something, it's going to be all road playoff games. I think eventually the magic runs out, but I don't know. This next round, we'll see if he heads to Kansas City or Baltimore, but this
Yeah.
next round, man, he's going to be catching a ton of points, and I don't know if I'll be wanting to fade him. We'll see where the line pops up, but yeah, for him to do that and then another road AFC Championship game, I think is asking a lot. But who's fading him right now?
Yeah, I know. Hard to fade him. He's great. Speaking of coach of the year, obviously Kevin Stefanski, I think, is the favorite. You know, you have a quarterback carousel, you still make it to the playoffs, but D'Amico Ryans, come on, right? I mean, first year head
Yeah.
coach, incredible draft. Won your first, not you won your division, first of all, which somebody had to lose in order for that to happen, but doesn't matter. You won your division, you win your first playoff game, and then now you're headed to the divisional round. If I have a vote, I'm voting for D'Amico Ryans.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably vote Shane Steichen just because that's who I bet on
Yes.
before the season, and I'm a
Yes.
crooked voter. But you're right. No, D'Amico Ryans deserves it. You won the division with a rookie quarterback who missed a few games there,
Yes.
so that alone should win you it. And I know it's a regular season award, but come on, in the voters' back of their mind, they have to be factoring in that playoff game, right? Like, how can you give it to Stefanski when he just got outcoached and outworked by the guy who is quote unquote going to be probably in second place for coach of the year?
And it was just so poetic too that it was the Texans that screwed over the Browns. I mean, when you look at the list of all the
Yes.
things they got from the Deshaun Watson trade, it's just hilarious, and it couldn't happen to a more dysfunctional fan base and ownership than the Browns. We are going to take a quick break here. When we come back, more super wildcard picks for Monday's action. You're watching Moxie Bets. We'll be right back. Why should you bet with Caesars Sportsbook? 2 words, Caesars Rewards. Every bet brings you closer to the type of benefits only Caesars can offer. Hotel stays, VIP experiences, sports and concert tickets, and more. It's not just an app, it's an empire. All right, welcome back to Moxie Bets, presented by Caesars Sportsbook, here with Sean, stacking the money Green of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, and we are focusing on Monday's matchup. We'll start with the later game here. Or no, let's actually start with the earlier game. I think I'm looking at the wrong rundown here. So your Eagles tonight, lane 3 at the Bucs, this total 43. You already alluded to it in the first half of the game. You started out 10-1, and then you ended 1-5. What is wrong with the Eagles right now?
It's a great question. What I think you could just counter by saying what is right. Not a lot.
Okay. Yeah.
And not a lot with this Eagles team right now. It just feels like a general mojo is off with the team. General vibes are down for this team. Certainly the offense is struggling. I mean, we have to start with the defense. Like, the defense didn't get the Cardinals to punt once at home. Hurts is certainly not as playing as well as last year, but we have to start with the defense. You have to get bad teams off the field, especially offensively. So that's where it really starts for me. Getting a couple freaking stops, for Christ's sake. Getting some turnovers on Baker Mayfield would be huge. Getting that pass rush. The pass rush has no excuse. Like, well, come on, guys. Hassan Reddick, Fletcher Cox, Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter. Like, we have talented guys on that defensive line. So for me, it's about the defensive line has to figure it out. They have to get a pass rush. Defense has to create some turnovers. Kind of lost in everyone wants to make it a Hurts thing, the offense thing. And they've been, the offense has been moving the ball. Now, need to convert in the red zone, but really defense has to get a couple stops. Get me a freaking turnover tonight, Eagles defense. And then we're starting to run downhill. So I think it starts with the defense getting some turnovers.
I agree with you. And I do think that, this secondary has been kind of a weak spot for you guys all season, coming off of last year too. And then it's been pretty leaky, specifically against wide receivers. You're up against Mike Evans tonight, who has been a beast. So that's interesting. What about the injuries right now on Philadelphia? You got Jalen Hurts that had a crooked finger, although he seems to be fine, right? They said it was just dislocated and they were able to put it back in. No AJ Brown, which is a huge blow, but Dallas Goedert is back, and the Bucs have been fairly vulnerable to tight ends this season. Do you feel good about the injuries right now, or is that a concern for you?
Yeah, not having AJ Brown certainly hurts, but to your point, Dallas Goedert, I think, could have a good game. You still have Devonta Smith. Julio Jones has quietly kind of had a couple good catches here towards the end of the season. He played for Tampa last year. Look out for the Julio Jones revenge game. Yeah, on the defensive side, losing Sidney Brown, a rookie safety, with the torn ACL last week. Thanks a lot, MetLife Turf. But that was everyone hate. Why can't they? Billions and billions of dollars. You can't water some grass. I would love, so that, I mean, honestly, I think the Sidney Brown injury could be the one, if the Eagles don't pull it out, quietly could be the reason. And now, in some ways, it forces them to run the ball a little bit more if AJ Brown's out. So maybe it ends up being a good thing.
Okay, so a little bit more swift. I was going to say, somebody had told me the other day that Brown had like wiped all of his social media. Is that true? After he was out?
Yeah. Well, AJ Brown has deleted all football related stuff and deactivated his Twitter profile. Yeah.
Okay.
I think
your fan base is very critical, and I think he probably just didn't want to hear the noise being injured going into the playoffs.
Yeah, everyone's like, "Oh, is he even going to be back next year? He's out on the team." I take it the same way you took it, is he did this right before it came out that he wasn't going to play. I think he knew he wasn't going to play. He's frustrated that he can't play. He doesn't want to hear all these comments about, "Where are you? We suck, blah, blah, blah." Yeah. So he just deleted it. I mean, the easier thing would have been not to just, delete the app.
Delete the app from your phone. Yeah, exactly.
Yes. And, you don't need to deactivate stuff because then it's going to become a news story. But, just delete the app.
Emotional. Yeah, I think it's more just emotional. Now, I will say, you kind of alluded to Shane Steichen, and I think when Shane Steichen went to the Colts, there was kind of a big, oh no, what's going to happen with this offense? And we've seen Jalen Hurts struggle a little bit more, throw some more interceptions, not be as dynamic without Shane Steichen. But what I find more interesting is nobody cared about Jonathan Gannon. Jonathan Gannon went, everyone's like, whatever, see ya, who cares? And I feel like this defense has almost struggled a little bit more. Do you believe, because I've seen both sides of this, Nick Sirianni, I think has a really good, well, I guess it depends right now on who you talk to in Philadelphia, but made it to the Super Bowl last year, still an 11-win season. And I hear people saying if they get bounced out of this first row, that Sirianni gets fired. Do you agree with that? And then do you believe that?
I would not fire Nick Sirianni regardless of the outcome tonight. Now, I think the path to him getting fired is if their performance tonight is embarrassing and there's bigger stuff going on behind the scenes that hasn't come out yet, where it's like, all right, they're clearly super dysfunctional. No one wants to play for this guy. Then maybe, but he's made the playoffs every year. Like, he's 34 and 17.
Super Bowl 11-win season. Like, come on.
Yeah. I mean, even his first year with Hurts as a first-year starter, they still were 9-8 and stuck into the playoffs. Last year, they get to the Super Bowl. Really great year. This year, it's always tough after you lose the Super Bowl to come back and have an amazing year, especially with those insane expectations. So I think in some ways, Nick Sirianni is a victim of his own success. Like, he set the bar so high. And, this year coming in, it was like Super Bowl or the season was a huge disappointment. Now, they don't win the Super Bowl, I will be disappointed, but let's be realistic. I do think you should give Sirianni another year. But to your point, Jonathan Gannon being gone, the defense, under Desai, they were like slowly falling apart. That decision to fire Desai when they did. And then, well, he's not even fired. They just moved him upstairs. It's almost like you break up with a girl and then you still live together. You're like, all right, this is really awkward. One of us should move out. What are we doing? Yeah. It's like, what is Desai chipping in for the utilities? Like, what's going on? Why did they not just fire him? Are they that afraid to pay him out? So now Matt Patricia's been even worse. So certainly the handling of that, you could blame Sirianni on. The general lack of effort and coming out flat. But that's why it's a big test. Like, can we get some effort? Can we get some heart coming into this playoff game? Because if we don't, then I think there has to be some questions answered.
Right. And I think that's kind of the biggest thing that I've heard is, has he lost the locker room? And I think that will be evident in tonight. You get a boost on the sideline. Big Dom coming back, allowed back on the
hashtag free Dom.
Hashtag free Dom. I will say just one more thing of gloat, and then we'll move on to things more positive. What was the worst loss for you this season? Was it the 49ers or the Cardinals?
That's tough. 49ers. Yeah, and we lost Big Dom, so that was really, Big Dom was just sitting there minding his own business. These mean 49er players come over and start stuff. For the record, I didn't think they should have thrown out You're a guy. They shouldn't have thrown out
Yeah.
Big Dom. Come on. It's a physical game.
Yeah.
Things got a little chippy. Let him play. Don't ban Big Dom. Don't throw a player out in a big game like that for something that was clearly an accident. But yeah, man, I think
because the Gannon thing has to hurt. Yeah.
The Gannon thing hurts. I would say 49ers one was really tough because they came in and punked us in our own house. But the Cardinals loss was worse in some ways because it was like, all right, this is our get right game. We lost a few in a row. We got to beat this Cardinals team. And just the way they drove down and got that touchdown, and we just had no answers, and it was like a total laydown. In some ways, that was worse. And if we would have won that, we I don't know. We needed to win the other game, but I feel like we would have.
Yes, you had a chance.
We could have got the NFC East,
yeah,
which would have been big, or at least like known to rest all the starters. It's really, that game was a game we had no business losing. So yeah, that one hurts more, but they both hurt. Thanks, Katie.
All right, yeah. Let's move on to something more positive. Tonight's game, Eagles are 3-point favorites on the road. Yes, you've got some injuries, but look at how well this Lions defense played last night, specifically in the red zone. I mean, that was really the game changer of this game. So there is hope for this Eagles defense to make some stops and, like you said, create some turnovers. I got to think you're laying the 3 points with your team.
Yeah, 100%. I'm going to go down with the ship. Give me the birds, laying the points. Their backs are against the wall. Everyone's out on them. In some ways, it's almost better that they're on the road because you don't have to deal. If that first drive they go 3 and out, they don't have to hear the boos. They don't have to feel that weird tension in the stadium. They can just go down to Tampa Bay, play fast, play loose, and no one's talking about how banged up Baker Mayfield is. He was wincing around. I think we get one good shot on Baker, pressure him. He's going to be thinking about that the entire game. So get some pressure, get some hits on him, and then pound the rock. Get DeAndre Swift going, get Dallas Goedert going. The stuff that worked for us when we were winning. Let's go back to that, guys.
Yeah. I don't know who to take in this game because, like you said, the Eagles are banged up and I feel like slightly demoralized right now. And then you look at this Bucs team and Baker is banged up and this Bucs team only scored 9 points, no touchdowns against the worst team in the NFL. Against the worst team in the NFL. So I'm just kind of like, I'm taking the under. I'm going under 43. I did look at one stat that's slightly confusing. Jalen Hurts going up against Todd Bowles hasn't been pretty in 3 career matchups against the Bucs. 3 touchdowns to 5 interceptions, and he's been held under 44 rushing yards in each of those games. The Bucs defense is good. They're good on the road. Good at home, allowing just 17 points per game. So I don't know who wins this game. I'm cheering for you. I really am, and I want you to have a win here and be happy, and then just get bounced out some point later. But I do want you to win this game. But I will lock in this under 43 because I just don't know that there's a lot of scoring going on. What's a prop bet that you like?
Prop bet that I like. I mean, I mentioned it, but yeah, give me Julio Jones over 16.5 receiving yards. I think Jalen Hurts actually trusts Julio Jones. He is kind of the AJ Brown replacement. There was a funny moment earlier in the season where he threw it to Julio Jones and like on the sidelines, he's like, I thought you were AJ. So I think he kind of views him, and to your point, attack over the middle with Dallas Goedert and attack the slot with Julio Jones because that's where he's probably going to be playing. So
I like that. And it's kind of one that I feel like a lot of people aren't going to be on, not looking Julio Jones's direction. So good. I love an interception prop, and Jalen Hurts has thrown 15 this season, at least one in the last 4 games, 2 interceptions in the last matchup with the Bucs. I just told you his touchdown to interception ratio against Todd Bowles. It's 3-5. I mean, it makes sense. It makes sense. So I'm just going to leave that there and we'll move on to the next matchup.
I hope he doesn't throw an interception, but yes, he has been struggling with some picks.
Yes, he has. He had another guy that's been struggling with picks is Josh Allen. And so that game has been moved to earlier. We're going in reverse here a little bit. So this is the earlier game at 4:30 p.m. Eastern. The Buffalo Bills fans are amazing. They're out there shoveling snow with their shirts off and having a good time. It looks absolutely miserable. It still looks cold. It's still snowing a little bit. It's supposed to clear up by 4:30 today. It's a 10-point spread. I mean, this is a massive, massive point spread. You look at the Steelers without TJ Watt, it doesn't look pretty. They're just 1-10. But you like the points with the Steelers. Is it just that it's too many points for kind of a low total and a game, or are you like Mason Rudolph, let's go?
No, I mean, I don't know if anyone's ever said Mason Rudolph, let's go. Maybe his like buddies, but that you don't hear that a lot. Mason Rudolph, let's go. But they have been playing pretty clean ball under Mason Rudolph. You mentioned that. He's been really good at not turning the ball over. Meanwhile, on the other side, Josh Allen, as good as he's played, you can lock in a Josh Allen interception or two. And I think this is kind of comparable to that Dolphins team that came in last year, catching double-digit points, starting a backup quarterback, playing with nothing to lose, and kind of hung around, had a chance to win, ultimately didn't, kind of hung around with this Buffalo team. And I think if they're going to hang around early, Buffalo's going to get tight. Josh Allen's going to be pressing. He tries to win the Super Bowl with one throw. And I think 10 points, double-digit dog. Mike Tomlin has a double-digit dog. I'm always going to be taking him.
Josh Allen is so interesting because I just can't quit him for some reason. I don't know what it is. I mean, he's cute and he always looks so sad on the sideline when he makes a big mistake or he throws the interception in the last final 2 minutes of the game and he looks so sad as the team, his opponent goes off and beats him because of his mistake. But I can't quit him. I just love him. He was my fantasy quarterback and, he put up some good stats. I worry about him though. I think they get out of this game. I think they beat the Steelers. I would be shocked if the Steelers win this game. But then moving forward with the amount of turnovers that Josh Allen has, you can't do that against the Ravens. You can't even do that against CJ Stroud and the Texans and think that you're going to be okay. So I do worry about him, but I am going to take the Bills over their team total at 24.5. You can find this at plus 110. And yes, the weather is not great. But again, it's supposed to clear up by 4:30. And it's not like they don't know how to play in the cold. I mean, they live in Buffalo. The Steelers without TJ Watt, they allow 27 points per game since 2021. So that's over this mark. Bills are averaging 28 points at home this season. They're averaging about 3.5 touchdowns at home this season. All of those are over 24.5. And the Steelers have averaged about 27 points since Mason Rudolph took over. So if this is a 10-point spread, they got to get at least 24.5 if they have a prayer of covering this and Mason Rudolph puts up some points. So I like the value on the Bills team total over the 24.5.
Yeah, to add on to that real quick, the biggest difference from when the game was supposed to be played on Sunday and now on Monday is the wind. And the wind is really what impacts totals, especially when it comes to the under. So the fact that the wind is now reasonable, it's not like 40 miles per hour, it's going to be something like 10. That definitely is better for the over, for team totals, that kind of stuff. So yeah, even as a guy who's sitting on the Steelers plus 10, I don't mind the Bills team total either.
I love that. What's that prop bet that you're looking at?
For this one, there's a couple I like, but I'll just go with Josh Allen rushing yards over 39.5. I also like his attempts over 8.5 if you can find that one as well. But yeah, Josh Allen, I mean, he's had 26 carries in the past 2 games. It's a playoff game. Quarterbacks love running the ball when everything's on the line. I think, back against the wall here in the playoffs, he's going to tuck it and run it. And especially if you're playing the attempts, you get those kneel downs at the half, at the end of the game. Those obviously count as rushing attempts, but I think he's going to get this just because he's going to be running a decent amount. So yeah, over 39.5 Josh Allen rushing yards.
I'm going to look at Najee Harris, who has quietly been doing, not quietly. I guess both of the running backs in Steelers have been kind of their lifeline over the past few games. Now, his rushing total has gone up. It was like 49.5. Now it's gone up to 61.5, but he averages at this mark at just 61 rushing yards per game this season. He's gone over on his rushing yard prop in 67% of games this season. They're going to lean a lot on the run here, and they're kind of a double-headed monster. So I do think that Najee Harris gets some good work on the ground. And the Bills have been, the defense has been kind of hit or miss, but I do think Najee Harris over 61.5 rushing yards.
Yeah, I like it. I think him and Jalen Warren, they've seemingly kind of figured out their formula of how you balance those two guys, and they're going to see a ton of work because I don't think Mike Tomlin's like, Mason Rudolph, let's go. He's like, Mason Rudolph, let's limit the chances you have to ruin this game for us. Najee Harris, Jalen Warren, you're our guys.
Yeah, exactly. Because we've seen these second string, third string quarterbacks come in and they've got life for a couple games, and then usually after 3 or so, it comes crashing down. We saw it with Joe Flacco. We saw it twice with Josh Dobbs. We saw it with Nick Mullins. Nick Mullins is a roller coaster in himself, but I kind of think that Mason Rudolph, let's go, might be like, Mason Rudolph, let's go back to the locker room and maybe we got to find somebody else. The time has
Let's
come
go back
now.
to Kenny Pickett.
Let's go back. Oh God, the Steelers are. They have no business in the playoffs. I don't know, and I say this all the time. If Mike Tomlin somehow like sold his soul to the devil to like just be able to have a winning season every season,
Just be 9-8. Dear devil, take my soul for 9-8 and early playoff exits.
Yes, for a C, for just a passing level grade. Do you think that Tomlin is on the hot seat at all? It seems to me that the Steelers hang on to their coaches forever.
Yeah, I don't. How do you fire Mike Tomlin? But there already are reports that after the season, he's going to take some time with his family.
Yeah.
So the fact that he's kind of preemptively saying that it makes me think there are some sort of conversations going on. And you mentioned it, like they're kind of just stuck in this like 9-8, 10-7 quagmire.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it's like you got to find your quarterback of the future. They drafted Kenny Pickett. Seems like they're already kind of moving past Kenny Pickett. I think if you find that elite level quarterback and you give him to Mike Tomlin, I still think they're a pretty dang good team.
Yeah.
But is he gonna? Do they want Tomlin to be that guy to mold this next quarterback? We'll see. But the fact that he's already kind of floating that out there of the like, hey, I might take some time off, makes me think he might not be back actually.
Yeah, which is pretty crazy to think. All right, the time has come for Mox Locks. The one thing you're taking to the window, I will go first on this one. I've got a parlay, a Jalen Hurts and a Josh Allen anytime parlay. First of all, those things are automatic. They've got 15 each rushing touchdowns this season. All Jalen Hurts has to do, even if his finger is screwed up, get him to the goal line, push him over, brotherly shove, whatever you need to do. That's automatic. Josh Allen, always an automatic. He's going to rushing. He's going to go over on his rushing yards, which you have, and then he's going to get into the end zone. Both of these guys are juiced to like minus 155, minus 167 for an anytime touchdown. Parlay them together, you get plus 168. So that's what I'm doing. What are you doing?
I love that strategy, Katie, because I'm with you. Like both those are just auto. Like lock it up for both those. I was gonna give out Jalen Hurts anytime touchdown. I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna give out a lock at minus 154. I got to be able to show my face on Moxie Bets. Giving out a lock at minus 154. So you got to give out either something plus odds or maybe minus 110. All right, we'll take that. But I'll go DeAndre Swift anytime touchdown at plus 145. I do think they are going to lean on the run. I do think they're going to lean on DeAndre Swift. The reason they dominated the Bucs down in Tampa Bay earlier in the season because DeAndre Swift had himself a game. Let the O-line dominate. Let them push people around. Establish the line of scrimmage. Old school football. DeAndre Swift gets in. You could parlay that with the Eagles -3 if you're really looking to get paid, but I'll lock it up on DeAndre Swift plus 145 over on Caesars Sportsbook.
Well, now, so you guys are really good with the first time touchdown props.
Yes.
I feel like you guys are, first of all, I'm not bad at them either, but y'all are good at them. So how do you feel about a Jalen Hurts for a first touchdown?
So I don't hate it, but it's crazy how, it's plus 380 for a first touchdown is bonkers in my mind. But it's hard, but also like when it hits, which it probably will, you'll be glad you had plus 380. If you're looking to get a little friskier in the first touchdown market, Dallas Goedert at like 12-1, Kenny Gainwell 25-1. The Kenny Gainwell they use in the red zone, they've used in the playoffs a bunch. So those are some fun longer ones I like. But it's hard to fade Jalen Hurts.
Now, what is the strategy for the first touchdown? You all put a quarter unit on like 4 bets. Is that kind of just how that goes every week?
Yeah, I'll you take up a unit, you break it up, maybe like so if you have, say you're betting $100, put like 25 on a couple of these. I think that like 15 to 1 to 30 to 1, that's the sweet spot. And I look to quarterbacks who like to run, that are maybe priced a little, like someone to get a QB sneak is
Yeah.
always good. A backup tight end you might use near the goal line, a guy like
Yeah.
Kenny Gainwell, who's the
Yeah.
second running back, but that they do use in the red zone. It's kind of the formula.
All right. I love it. I'm going to employ that a little bit later today. Sean, thank you for joining us today very early on your side. Good luck
Yes,
to the
thanks for having me.
Eagles tonight. You can catch him at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network and the Sports Gambling Podcast. He is the premier podcast on the network. But talk to me about everything that you have going on. I know you guys are at the Circa, right? Every Friday. Does that go through the Super Bowl? Hopefully I'll see y'all at the Super Bowl. What's going on?
Yes. We will be out there in the Super Bowl, hopefully hanging out with Katie. And we have our VSiN show every Friday night, 9 o'clock Pacific, midnight East, live from the Circa. And Sports Gambling Podcast covering college basketball, NFL, just basically anything you can gamble on. You can find us over at sportsgamblingpodcast.com.
And you can follow Sean at Sean T. Green on social. Again, thank you so much. This has been Moxie Bets presented by Caesar Sportsbook. Don't forget to follow us on social as well at Moxie Bets. And good luck with your bets tonight.
Go Birds.